confirmation that Diana, Princess of Wales, has in fact been killed in that car accident.
The world weeps after the death of Princess Diana. On every continent today, mourners paying tribute.
On office, sadly she died.
So at that point, they then say, we need to bring Diana back, and you're charged with going out there.
What began as a quiet, almost routine announcement from Buckingham Palace quickly spiraled into one of the most emotionally charged royal controversies of the decade. Princess Diana, beloved by millions, has remained untouched in her private resting place for over 27 years. But now, the royal family's huge announcement about Princess Diana's tomb has shocked everyone. It started quietly, like a whisper before the storm, with a press release from the Royal Communications Office on a grey Tuesday morning. As the announcement was made, it was largely unnoticed at first. No press conference, no televised address, just a plain digital dispatch with the crest of Buckingham Palace faintly embossed in the header. As cold and formal as it appeared, it was earth-shaking. Most who read it only scanned the first few lines, expecting another procedural update, perhaps about renovations at Kensington Palace or a new charity initiative under the Prince of Wales. But buried in the text, cloaked in careful wording and emotional restraint, was a phrase that shattered the stillness like distant thunder. Given recent developments regarding Princess Diana's burial site, the royal household is in the process of reviewing materials that may lead to a formal investigation. Those words, cool, controlled, deceptively gentle, hinted at a tectonic shift, suggesting that something long buried, both literally and metaphorically, was stirring again. It had been more than 25 years since the world last came together in stunned mourning for Diana on August 31, 1997, a date still vivid in the public's memory. Over 2.5 billion people around the globe tuned in to watch her funeral, an unforgettable moment in modern history. Now, those words pulled the world back into that fog of tragedy, suspicion, and unresolved grief. The timing was especially jarring, King Charles undergoing cancer treatment, Prince William newly burdened with expanded royal duties, and the monarchy under scrutiny like never before. Yet, there it was, a whisper in an official document that cut through the British reign like a knife through silk. Speculation erupted instantly. What had prompted such a move? New evidence? Political pressure? A forensic anomaly? Or something darker? For some, it reignited long-standing suspicions about the Paris crash, shadowy figures, report inconsistencies, and the deafening silence that followed. For others, it was an affront, disturbing the peace of a woman who had already endured too much. But regardless of belief, one thing was certain, as something was coming, something bigger than anyone expected. The morning after the world learned of Diana's death, time seemed to stand still across continents. Candlelight vigils lit the night sky like fallen stars. People wept openly on live TV. Children clutched newspaper clippings. News anchors struggled to remain composed. Her death was not just the loss of a princess, it marked the end of a symbol, of kindness, of rebellion within royalty, of humanity wrapped in tiaras. But it's what happened after her death that continues to spark whispers behind palace walls and in dark corners of the internet. Traditionally, members of the British royal family are buried with grand ceremonies in places like Westminster Abbey or St. George's Chapel, vaults steeped in royal tradition. Yet Diana, once married to a future king and mother to the next in line, was not given such a burial. Instead, she was laid to rest alone, on a small tree-draped island in the middle of the oval lake at Althorp, the Spencer family estate. The site was tranquil and even picturesque, but to some, it felt more like exile than honor. There were no public visits, no guided tours, visitors could only view the site from a distance, without access to the grave itself. While the setting was seen as peaceful and respectful, its isolation gave it an almost mythical quality, as if the public's connection to her had been purposefully placed out of reach. At the time, Charles Spencer, Diana's younger brother, insisted it was for her protection. "She deserves a place of peace, not spectacle," he said during the televised eulogy, voice shaking. "Somewhere she can finally be safe." But behind the scenes, tension simmered. Declassified internal communications from 1997, uncovered through a Freedom of Information request, show signs of conflict between palace aides and the Spencer family. The royals reportedly preferred a more traditional burial, maybe not at Westminster, but certainly somewhere more public. The Spencers resisted, citing Diana's fraught relationship with the monarchy. Adding to the mystery, a diary entry from one of Diana's close friends suggested she had confided her burial wishes months before her death: "If something happens to me, I don't want to be left in that place. I belong somewhere the people can find me." That place was Althorp. And yet, despite being laid to rest there, the security around her grave was extreme: motion-triggered alarms, cameras, armed guards, and even underwater patrols. Why such secrecy for a woman who once walked among crowds, shook hands without gloves, and defied protocol to embrace the sick and the poor? The public explanation focused on privacy and dignity, aiming to avoid turning the site into a media circus. But that narrative began to fray in light of more recent findings. In 2017, a confidential report quietly re-evaluated by French authorities, never publicly acknowledged, documented timeline inconsistencies between the crash and the transport of Diana's body. She was repatriated to Britain with astonishing speed, so fast that standard autopsy procedures were skipped, toxicology tests were limited, and no independent forensic review occurred before her lead-sealed coffin was closed. Lead coffins, notoriously difficult to reopen, made any future exhumation almost impossible without causing damage. So, the question that continues to haunt, why the rush? Some believe the answer lies in control, in the delicate balance between the monarchy and the media. The Spencer family's wish to shield Diana, and the royal family's need to manage the narrative. Others speculate darker motives, that Diana knew something or intended to reveal something in her final days. She was no longer just a royal, she had become a rogue force. Loved by the public, but seen by the firm as unpredictable, perhaps even dangerous. Her relationship with Dodi Al-Fayed, her independent humanitarian work, her rumored plans to move to the US and redefine her image, all threatened the crown's grip on its most iconic former member. So was her burial at Althorp really about peace? Or was it about distance, about silencing the legacy she was building? As her island remains locked away, so too does the truth. And perhaps, just perhaps, that's exactly how someone intended it. Earlier this year, during what was supposed to be a routine erosion control assessment near the ornamental lake at Althorp, estate structural engineers stumbled upon something wholly unexpected as part of a long-planned shoreline stabilization project. Sonar scans were being conducted beneath the small man-made island at the center of the lake, the very island where Princess Diana was laid to rest. Initially, the engineers believed they had located nothing more than structural reinforcement, perhaps remnants of earlier construction meant to protect the burial site from water damage over time. But the data told a different story. Beneath the surface, embedded deep within the silt and stone, lay something far more complex, a sealed concrete vault, large, purposeful, and most unsettling of all, not found on any estate blueprints, burial records, or architectural logs maintained since the 1997 reinterment of Diana, Princess of Wales. Its presence was as inexplicable as it was deliberate. The shape of the vault was unconventional, not merely a box, but a geometric anomaly, a chamber within a chamber that defied easy explanation. Internal echo mapping revealed layered hollows and structured compartments, suggesting not just storage, but design, precision, intent. Alarmed by the find, local officials escalated the matter. But before word could spread, the Crown intervened. In hushed coordination with the royal household, a team of forensic historians, archaeologists, and military-grade structural analysts were flown in under non-disclosure orders. Their task was twofold: identify the vault's purpose and determine whether it posed a risk structurally, historically, or reputationally. After days of preliminary scans and silent night operations on the estate grounds, the team issued a quiet internal statement to the palace: the contents of the vault are inconsistent with the known burial artifacts listed in 1997. What exactly lay within that sealed vault, and why it had been omitted from every official record, remains tightly classified. But the implication was chilling. Harry and William were pulled back in. The revelation sent ripples through the highest levels of the monarchy long before the public ever got wind of it. According to sources close to the palace, it was King Charles III himself who made the decision to inform his sons personally. The phone calls were not scheduled, not filtered through aides. Charles reached out directly, one after the other, requesting their presence at Althorp with a tone described as grave by insiders. Within 72 hours, both Prince William and Prince Harry arrived quietly at the estate, just as dawn was breaking over the frost-lined grass of Northamptonshire. William arrived promptly, accompanied by elite members of the Royal Security Unit and senior legal advisors from the palace chambers. But Harry, having travelled from the US, needed a bit more time. He reportedly arrived a few hours later, flown in via a private jet, accompanied by his security detail and an additional private counsel who had not previously been associated with royal affairs. No press was notified. No statements were made. The gates of Althorp closed silently behind them. For nearly 7 hours, the brothers remained on the grounds, meeting behind locked doors with King Charles and Earl Spencer, Diana's brother, and the custodian of the estate. What was said in that meeting remains a mystery, protected by generations of royal protocol. But what emerged from that room left a visible mark. One long-serving staff member stationed near the side entrance to the estate chapel whispered to a fellow worker as the brothers left, they looked like they'd seen a ghost. William's expression was blank, haunted, even. Harry's jaw was clenched, his knuckles white as he gripped the SUV door. Neither acknowledged the small group of estate staff who had lined the path out of quiet respect. From that moment forward, the tone within royal circles changed. Something had been found beneath the lake, and whatever it was, it pulled the two estranged brothers back into a story neither of them were prepared to revisit. The royal announcement came at precisely 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. The ornate double doors of the Buckingham Palace media wing creaked open. Out stepped Sir Malcolm Withers, a senior royal spokesperson known for his icy composure and unshakable loyalty to the House of Windsor. But on this day, even he looked unsettled. The weight of history pressed against every word that followed. As part of our ongoing investigation into certain materials discovered at Althorp Estate, he began, his voice tight with restraint, we are formally announcing that discussions are currently underway regarding the possible temporary opening of the tomb of Diana, Princess of Wales. A stunned silence rippled through the assembled press corps. Gasps were audible. The royal family's huge announcement about Princess Diana's tomb just shocked everyone. This was not just a royal update, it was a historic tremor. And this was disturbing. For the first time since that sorrowful day in 1997, when the world watched Diana be laid to rest on a secluded island within her family's ancestral estate, the possibility of disturbing her final resting place was being entertained. And it was no longer a rumor, it was real. What exactly had been found? Why now, after 27 years of near silence? Was this truly about honoring Diana, or was something else at play? The palace refused to elaborate, but whispers spread like wildfire. Some speculated it was about long-lost letters, possibly locked away in a secret compartment near her burial site. Others believed it had to do with an item that didn't belong, something placed there deliberately, either as tribute or as a warning. And then the most shocking rumor of all emerged from an unnamed insider, a DNA verification. The implications were immediate. Was this about questioning maternity, paternity, or even more unthinkable, was something in the royal bloodline being challenged? As the broadcast ended and the camera feed cut, one thing became unmistakably clear: this announcement wasn't just a royal formality, it was a spark in dry grass. The storm had only just begun. The Paris connection reopened. For years, the flames of conspiracy had flickered quietly. But now, seemingly out of nowhere, they roared back to life. And once again, all eyes turned to Paris. It wasn't just nostalgia or the haunting memories of that tragic night in 1997. No, something deeper was stirring. A timeline riddled with inconsistencies was being revisited. Researchers, journalists, and digital sleuths alike began combing through every shred of documentation, every photograph, every decision made in those fateful hours following the crash. the spotlight fell hard on the French autopsy report, curiously brief and lacking in the thoroughness expected for someone of Diana's global stature. Even stranger, key medical files remain sealed by French authorities to this day, locked away from both the public and independent forensic review. Why? What secrets were they trying to preserve? But perhaps the most jarring discovery was the decision to embalm Diana's body within hours, before a comprehensive post-mortem could be conducted in the UK. That act alone raised red flags. Embalming not only accelerates tissue degradation, but it also obscures certain forensic markers. For a royal figure whose every movement was traditionally documented with extreme precision, this swift embalming was not only suspicious, it was utterly unprecedented. To this day, no official explanation satisfies the legal and royal experts who've come forward. It wasn't just unorthodox, it was a breach of both legal procedure and royal protocol. And more than that, it may have prevented critical information from ever being uncovered. Now, with talks emerging that Princess Diana's tomb may be reopened for verification, what was once whispered on obscure message boards and deep web forums had finally crept into mainstream consciousness. What was once dismissed as a wild theory had been handed a terrifying dose of plausibility. And with that, one question pierced through the noise like a siren: what if it's not her in the tomb? The notion sounds like something torn from a Hollywood script, impossible, implausible, even grotesque. But when you line up the facts, the speed of the embalming, the sealed French records, the delayed identification, and the resistance to further investigation, the unthinkable no longer seemed so far-fetched. And somewhere in the silence between those resurfaced whispers, a darker possibility took root. If it's not her in the tomb, then where is she? Or worse, what else have we been told that isn't true? Theories flood in as the royal family continues to maintain an ironclad silence. An unsettling truth sets in, and when answers are withheld, speculation thrives. And in the case of Princess Diana's tomb, the silence has become deafening. What did they find beneath Princess Diana's final resting place? Of all the whispered possibilities, one theory eclipses the rest in sheer plausibility and weight: the recovery of Princess Diana's missing personal journal. For decades, rumors have swirled that Diana maintained a deeply personal diary, one that chronicled not only her turbulent marriage to Prince Charles, but also the behind-the-scenes conflicts with the crown, her observations about royal protocols, and even foreboding notes about her safety in the months before her death. Royal insiders have speculated for years that this diary mysteriously disappeared in the days immediately following her death. If it has now surfaced, buried with her either by Diana's own wishes or by someone else, its contents could be cataclysmic for the monarchy. Then there's the theory that sends shivers down spines not because of what it says, but what it dares to imply. According to this narrative, a second coffin lies beneath the one publicly known to hold Diana's remains. Some claim it contains personal effects, her letters, her favorite jewelry, or gifts from her sons. Others go further, suggesting it holds decoys, records, or even evidence too sensitive to ever be released. But the darkest version of this theory postulates that Diana's actual remains were secretly relocated years ago, and that the current site at Althorp is merely symbolic, a beautiful, tragic facade. Royal skeptics point to irregularities in the original burial, the unusually fast handling of her remains, and the lack of official photographic documentation during key moments. Some even suggest that the second coffin may have been placed later, part of a covert operation that no one was ever meant to discover. Perhaps the most unsettling theory, because it's backed by physical evidence, is the idea that someone has tampered with the tomb post-burial. Satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar reportedly show anomalies in the substructure beneath Diana's memorial site. According to insiders close to the ground penetration team, a sealed vault appears to have been added sometime after 1997. If the vault wasn't part of the original burial plan, that means someone came back. One anonymous leak stated, "The question is why?" Whatever the truth is, the royal curtain remains firmly closed. No official statement. No confirmation. No denial. And in that void, the imagination of the world runs wild, populating the silence with fear, fascination, and a desperate hunger to understand what, if anything, the monarchy is trying to hide. The Spencer family's dilemma, one voice had remained painfully, almost defiantly, silent, Charles Spencer. As Diana's younger brother and the custodian of Althorp Estate, her childhood home and final resting place, his legal authority looms larger than ever. Any disturbance on the island at the center of the estate's ornamental lake, including a potential opening of the tomb, cannot move forward without his explicit consent. And yet, Spencer has said nothing publicly, no statements, no interviews, not even a whisper to the press. But privately, it's a storm of emotion. Sources close to the Spencer family say Charles is wrestling with a decision that cuts deeper than law or tradition. It touches the very promise he made to his sister in death. One longtime family friend described his internal battle as a moral crossroad of historic proportions. On one hand, there's the call for transparency, a growing wave of royal historians, legal experts, and even segments of the public demanding clarity on Diana's death, autopsy, and final resting state. On the other hand, there is the sanctity of silence, a sacred space that Charles vowed would remain untouched, a space Diana herself once confided was her only real home. The burden weighs heavy. This isn't just about public curiosity or even royal protocol. For Charles Spencer, it's personal. He has long believed that the world failed his sister while she was alive, hounded by paparazzi, betrayed by those closest to her, consumed by a crown that never fully embraced her. He sees her tomb not as a site of global fascination but as a symbol of peace, the only thing he could give her that was truly hers. To open it now, he reportedly confided in a friend, would feel like letting the wolves back in. Meanwhile, within palace walls, another dynamic brews. Prince William, sources say, has leaned toward allowing a controlled investigation behind closed doors. He has argued for accountability and believes the truth, whatever it may be, must outlive the rumors. He's told advisers that Diana belonged to the people as much as she did to us. But Harry is said to remain torn. Despite his strained relationship with the monarchy and his new life across the Atlantic, he reportedly fears this act would desecrate rather than honor their mother's memory. "We lost her once already," a source quoted him. "I don't know if I can go through losing her again." And King Charles, the man whose life was most altered by Diana's rise and fall, for the first time in years, has issued no formal guidance, no cryptic remarks, not even a subtle nod to the matter in his public appearances. A silence that some view as diplomatic, and others as cowardice. The tomb of Princess Diana remains undisturbed, its ancient stone glistening beneath the dew of early spring mornings. But for how long? Palace insiders confirm that the Royal Advisory Panel has authorized a 30-day window for an investigative committee to submit its final recommendation. Within that window, all options, from non-invasive ground scans to a full legal exhumation, remain on the table. The countdown has begun. Outside Althorp, a quiet pilgrimage has begun. Mourners arrive by the dozens, some from nearby villages, others from across continents. They gather at the gates near the perimeter of the lake and even in small boats on the water. But no one dares approach the island. Some light candles, their flickering flames mirrored in the still waters below. Others carry signs with simple messages, "Let her rest. Truth matters. Diana forever." And a few just stand there in total silence, their eyes locked on the island that for nearly 3 decades held more than just a body. It held a nation's collective grief, a mother's love, and a mystery too deep to die. "We never stopped loving her," one woman whispered through tears. "And we never stopped searching for the truth." Across the globe, news outlets brace for impact. Every outlet, from Buckingham Palace correspondents to TikTok sleuths, waits for the single headline that could rewrite royal history. But everyone knows, and once that tomb opens, once the air inside meets the world outside, nothing will ever be the same again. If the royal family truly opens Princess Diana's tomb,